Welcome to the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. Our next presentation is Remember Who You Are, in which animators of the groundbreaking film The Lion King reflect on life at Walt Disney Feature Animation and creating the film. Please welcome representatives from Disney Parks Live Entertainment.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Banks Lee. It is my honor today to be hosting this special seminar, taking a look back at the classic Disney animated film, The Lion King. Now, this year is great because we're getting not only a live-action retelling of The Lion King, but it is the 25th anniversary of the original film. And we have a special group of animators with us today who worked on The Lion King back in the day. So if you could please introduce yourselves and what role you had in the making of The Lion King.
It's on. I'm Rachel Lord.
What did you do?
I was Administrator of Artistic and Professional Development. I am not an animator. I never drew a picture that you saw on the screen.
She was her mom, though. You were the mom. She was the mom of all the interns. My name's Merritt Andrews. At that time, I was an in-betweener, cleanup in-betweener, so graduated to key assistant animator by the time we were done.
Ditto, no. Teresa Quezada, and I was a trainee in-betweener. This was my first movie right after the internship.
Hi, my name is Stella. Lion King was my first movie. I worked as an in-betweener for the special effects unit.
Hi, my name is Monica McDonald. It was Monica Murdoch on the film. I worked on the hyenas. And it's great to see everybody and all this whole group again.
I'm Pam Darley. I actually trained in the CAPS departments on Lion King, so I got to work in a couple different areas.
My name is Sasha Dorogov, and I was working this time at the video game Lion King as Animator.
My name is Tony Stanley. I was a trainee on The Lion King, did the internship through it, and it was the first film that I started on with Teresa, our mom, Rachel, and I worked with you on the hyenas, so yeah, we got to talk about that.
My name is Lon. I was an in-betweener on the hyenas. It was my first film working with Monica. She was my mom, and Rachel trained us very, very well, and that was the first film for the next of 10 years worth of films.
I'm Brian. This was actually my fourth film. I was a key on young Simba.
My name is Aaron Blaze, and I was, I can't remember what film it was, probably third or fourth. And it was, and I was the supervising animator of young Nala, created Nala.
Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We'll jump right in with the questions. You can just jump right in with the answers if you have one. What was it like to draw Simba, and what were the challenges in doing so?
Come on.
Well, I think the interesting thing was up until that point, with the exception of maybe some comedic sidekicks, we'd drawn primarily humans. So it was a challenge, I think, for every artist to draw naturalistic animals. One of the cool things was they brought living lions and wildlife into a soundstage over at the Hollywood Studios, and we sat on our drawing tables, and they just let them wander around, interact with us. We could draw them, we could touch them, we could just absorb the experience. It really set the tone for then how we portrayed them in the animation.
Yeah, we're missing a few fingers now. Yeah. But that was, I mean, they really started that with Bambi, and if you look at the animation that was done before Bambi, like in Snow White, they were very cartoony look. There was a very cartoony look to the animation and the animals, and it wasn't until after that they really started bringing in animals and really doing the research, and they really did that on every film, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, looking out at the audience, I imagine there's a few people that remember the old Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom. It was actually Jim Fowler that actually brought the animals, and we got to spend time with that man and really got a chance to understand how the animals reacted in real life.
I know some of y'all mentioned doing this through the internship program, so how do you staff up the animators through the internship program, and how were they selected?
The studio opened on May 1st, 1989. I have to go back a little bit to get to where we were. There were 75 people, I believe. Aaron was one of the original crew that was there.
And Monica.
And Monica. And we were opened as an attraction for the parks. It was called the Magic of Disney Animation. At that point, I don't think anyone realized what the magic actually was going to be. The magic was what occurred in that studio. From 75, we grew to about 425. Don't fact check me, but I'm close. And there's always been a mentorship with Disney from Walt's days on. So we had an internship, and basically it was that we would take people from the art schools and teach them to animate. And they would be in front of the windows where the tour corridor where people were passing through, so they were an attraction. But then the studio started to grow. We started to get work from California. And we had an internship. There were 13 people. We would run it about 3 times a year. And we staffed up to about, as I said, 425. Each intern had a mentor, and they were taken from very, very easy projects, like a bouncing ball, to animation. And how many that are on the stage now went through the internship? Almost everyone. Sasha, we got from Moscow. That's okay. We brought him in. But that's how basically we staffed up the studio. And I think most of the people that were working on Lion King, we did bring people in from outside, but most came through the internship.
In Moscow, interns teach you.
That's right. Absolutely.
So every film has a director. So on an animated film, what is the role of the director?
It's really not that much different than a live action director, but in an animated world, the director really has control. I shouldn't say control. The director is there to guide the ship, okay? But you have to realize that everything you see on the screen, everything you hear, everything needs to be created. You can't just go out and shoot it, obviously. So it's everything from the concept of, you know, the writing of the story through the design, the look, the acting, the songs, the post-production, the Foley work, everything funnels through the director. Now, there's a lot of people that lead up all of those different departments that are there to make sure it gets done and gets done well. And then the final say kind of goes through the directors. There's usually 2, and then through the editorial department. And so like I said, it's not much different than live action. It's just that it's much more detailed.
Okay. And what is the role of a cleanup animator, and how can so many different artists draw the exact same way?
Here you go, Martha. I got you.
Oh, you got me? Okay. I was a lead on quite a few films, but what the role of a lead is, it's the same as with an animator. A lead sets the standards of what the character's going to look like. Like, for example, a rough animator, a lead animator is the person we all try to mimic and make sure that our drawings look like the lead animator, because he sets or she sets what the character looks like. Now, that lead animator will have a staff of animators that will help him draw that character. Well, everybody draws a little differently. Everybody draws a little differently, although we're all trying to draw like the lead animator. So all those rough drawings will come to the cleanup lead, which would be, say, me on a film. And then I would set the standards of what the final drawing of what it's going to look like up on the screen. So what you see on the screen is what the cleanup drawings have done. So the farther your drawings are apart, the higher you are on the standard scale. So you're setting the standards of it. And then I would have a staff that would put drawings between my drawings. So they're bringing the drawings closer and closer together. And then by the time you get to the in-betweens, the drawings are real close together. So that's the role of cleanup, is that we try to bring to life what the animators acted out in their rough by completing the finished drawings that you see on the screen. Okay?
Now, what is the role of a special effects animator?
There you Yeah, I'm the only one here. has to be me. Special effects is anything that moves and doesn't talk, basically. So at that time, it was leaves, shadows, fire, smoke, the tones. That is, you know, if you see me here, you may see a little shadow in my face. That's called a tone. So if I move my face, the character department would move me, but the effects department will move the shadow on my face. So we got work from the character department, and we would overlay our work. The same thing if there was a splash, we would get the characters just falling in empty water in a plane, and then the animators go ahead and make the splash happen. Unlike the character department, in the special effects department, the animators, assistants, breakdowns, and in-betweeners, we all clean up our own drawings, kind of say, you know. So yeah, that's what we did. And at that time, we were collaborating with the California studio. By the time, we were maybe, that was my first film, we were maybe 8 or 10 people here. By the time we got to Mulan, which was when I left after Mulan, we were a good 15 or so in the special effects department in the Florida studio, and that movie was completely done here. So it was a really nice staffing up.
Now, with the characters being drawn on paper, were there any computers used in the making of The Lion King?
Yeah, in fact, the special effects and the you know, Stampede. The whole sequence, the Stampede, all of that was done with computer images, computerized. We had, at that point, we didn't have anything to do with it. At that point, we just did 2D animation effects, but does anybody else have anything to say?
Yeah, Pam's a little bit.
We had a proprietary software that Disney developed. They actually won, I believe, 10 Academy Awards for the development of CAPS, Computer Animation Production Software. And CAPS departments consisted of several departments. So there was scene planning, so all of the camera moves that you see that happen were actually done digitally. The beautiful layouts were scanned. The drawings, the animation, the effects, the cleanup drawings were scanned into the system. Where we did pencil tests, they were also color modeled in the system, so placed over backgrounds, and we would apply colors to them. The palettes were created for the ink and painters, and so the ink and painters would paint them in the system, and then all these types of different effects were available to us so that we could add ripple distortion to heat shimmers on the horizon in Lion King. One of the things that was great about CAPS is that as we moved from cells to digitized artwork, we were able to have a lot more levels. So on a movie like Little Mermaid, you could have 3 multiplane shots. The multiplanes were expensive to do, and on a film like Lion King, a few years later, there are literally over 100 multiplane shots. So it allowed us to have much more complicated scenes, many more levels than we could just working on cell.
One other thing too I wanted to mention, just in the way that the animators and the computer graphics department worked together. We had an animator, Ruben Aquino, who I wish was here today, but Ruben Aquino was on The Lion King a year before the rest of us. And his whole job to do during that year, he gathered an entire encyclopedia of different types of animals' movements, runs, walks, all kinds of stuff, because once again, you know, a lot of us had just done humans at the time. And so by the time we came onto the film, there was this huge library of animal locomotion that Ruben Aquino had put together. And so one of the things that he had done was a wildebeest. It was a wildebeest walking, a wildebeest running. And so that hand animation that he did then went to the computer department, who used that information, and they built a wildebeest and used his information to create it running. And then they multiplied it 1,000 times over and created that herd. But it started with one guy figuring out that work and animating it by hand, and then handing it off for the computer department to then take to the next level.
That's awesome. Now, one thing I remember growing up, seeing all the making ofs for these animated films were the research trips that would be done. So what was the research trips like for The Lion King?
Well, none of us were on that trip, although I tried really hard to get on it. I've been on a few other research trips, and the research trips are very important because, you know, especially since Google came about and all that sort of thing, a lot of people ask, well, why don't you just go on Google and check it out there. But there's certain things that you just can't get through a book or through a computer screen. When you go to Africa, I've been to Africa twice, and when you go to Africa and you step off the plane and you smell the air and you feel like you've gone back to the cradle of man, you feel like you've come home. There's certain things that you just, emotions and things that you just can't experience unless you're there. And things happen when you're on these trips that you don't expect, that affect the story. And there's just discoveries that you make that really can profoundly affect the direction that a story can go.
Now, The Lion King came out in the middle of what they were calling the Disney Renaissance. So what was it like going into this film after the successes of Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin?
So yeah, back up a couple years, Beauty and the Beast, obviously nominated for Best Picture Academy Awards, pretty big deal. And then Aladdin was like lightning struck twice. We just couldn't believe the success we were enjoying. So after that, what do we go on to next? Well, the studio is trying to make more films, put them out more often, instead of one every 2 years, every 7 years, which was happening prior to the Golden Age. The studio was developing 2 films simultaneously, Pocahontas and King of the Jungle. And the staff was going to be split up. Pocahontas was considered this huge film, more in the line of Beauty and the Beast. And The Lion King was kind of being considered a B-level, C-level film, sort of akin to Dumbo, something a little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate. And at the time, they said Florida was going to work on The King of the Jungle. And some of us...
Lion King was called King of the Jungle.
Correct.
Yeah.
And California was going to make Pocahontas. So things are crazy at Disney. Stories sometimes hit snags where they're not quite sure how they want to proceed with it. It's not playing the way they think it should. And an amazing thing happened. Everybody turned their attention to The Lion King, and Elton John's music came in, and we're like, this is something special. And it was so different than everything else that we'd worked on. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of our films, is that people just pour this passion into it. And it came out, and I remember seeing the reviews and thinking, oh my gosh, they love it as much as we loved it. And at first we thought, well, maybe it's not going to be as great as all the other ones. It turned out to be the most successful film of that year. It made like, what, $400 million or something. And after that, every studio in Hollywood was afraid to open a film against Disney. We were unstoppable. Ironically, Pocahontas came out a year later, and it wasn't as successful. So, you know, it just goes to show sometimes you have your heart set on one thing that doesn't pan out, and something else turns out to be this amazing thing that even today, I mean, live-action Lion King, who would have thought?
Yeah. And another, I mean, just from the standpoint of what it was like for us to be working on it, we were all in our 20s. We're all rounded, with the exception of Brian, or me. I'm roundish and gray now. But we were all young and just, we were just having fun. I mean, there was rubber band fights every day, and you know, we'd go on park walks. Hey, we work in a theme park. Let's go walk in the park. But we were making these animated movies that were so much fun to make, and we were just pouring ourselves into them. I mean, during crunch time, we'd come in at 7 o'clock in the morning and leave at 2 a.m. and do it for months at a time. But we were having a ball, and we really weren't. There wasn't. We look back on the '90s and the films that were made during the '90s with all this nostalgia, but there wasn't that. We were creating it, but we didn't realize we were doing it. We were just making them, and it was just a lot of fun. And it's great that whenever we get together like this, we all get teary and it's good.
To hook on to what Aaron's talking about, you can, after a while when you're working on these films, you forget you're working on a movie. It becomes your job after a while. You're friends, you're hanging out, you're having fun. And then we would have the screenings every now and then. Every few months or so, we'd have a little wrap-up screening of what the film was like at the time. And it reminded you, oh, that's right, this is a film. This is a movie. So, and then that really charged you up to get back to that desk and make that magic. But yeah, it's remembering what the job was and remembering what you were doing, because you can forget about it after a while. And but that's the one thing I don't think we ever really did. And we all knew exactly what we needed to do and why we were there. And it was cool because we were still working at Disney Animation, which is the legacy of all that stuff. So that was really a key moment of it.
So how long does it take to typically animate your typical scene, and what's the process of that like?
It depends. Usually, the most important thing, you have to think about, visualize this, right? But my experience, it takes probably a couple hours just to rough it, very quick. But like I said, 2-3 days, you just don't do anything, just thinking. Close your eyes, try to see this, how it will look like on a screen, right? And when it's ready, you just put on a paper, very easy. Simple.
Okay, so on the how long, it really differs, and especially in effects. A little nose tone would take 5 minutes, breakdown, assist breakdown in between, bloop, no problem. However, the avalanche scene in Mulan, I swear to you, 6 hours per drawing. Now count how many drawings are in the avalanche scene. Yeah, that was a lot. And yeah, it's quite hefty. So it depends, and also in character, it depends on how many characters are in the scene. So it's a number of things.
Yeah, 12 to 24 drawings per second. Yeah, 12 to 24 drawings per second, and some of those drawings could take a half an hour, sometimes 2 hours. Yeah, it varies. Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember Mark Hen, who actually did young Simba, right? Small Simba. And he said, if you can draw fast, you can be animator. Means like you can draw really, really fast, very rough, scribbles, and put lots of feelings, lots of emotion in this drawing. After that, you can tie down that and give it to cleanup. It's done.
So do you have any advice for any people out there who want to get into animation?
Draw from life. Yeah. I can take that. Yeah, absolutely. There's actually, if you want to get a degree, there's some fantastic schools out there. Some of the best are located right here in the Southeast. You have Ringling over in Sarasota. You have SCAD in Atlanta and in Savannah. But they can be pricey. And I'm so envious of the young people today that what they have available to them on the internet. I wish we all had this opportunity. But I can say that there's amazing, much more affordable ways of learning it online. And quite frankly, Aaron has one of the best sites in the country for learning animation. Aaron, I'm talking about that.
Well, thank you. I think I'll plug myself.
Also.
Back in 2010, I decided to kind of retire from Disney and leave and kind of start my own thing. And so now my business partner, who's right there filming, Nick Birch, and we decided, well, actually, I want to step back. When I first came into animation in 1988, I had this great mentor. I didn't know who he was, this guy named Glenn Keane. But he created some of the best stuff. You guys know who he is. He created The Mermaid, Little Mermaid, and he created Tarzan, and he created The Beast, and he created all these wonderful characters. And he took me under his wing, and within 20 minutes, I was infected by this passion of wanting to create animation. And he was very generous with the amount of work that he would give me and teach me and help me kind of grow through the industry. And so when I left Disney, I really took those experiences with Glenn Keane as inspiration. And so we decided that's kind of what we wanted to do on an affordable level. And so now we go around the world, and through our website, creatureartteacher.com, we go around and we travel all over and teach animation. So it's been really wonderful.
Just a little bit. I opened a school too, animation school, because I have experience since 1982, but it was mostly in Russia, right? And lots of people around the world wants to work with Disney, and so on. Plus, they came to find some places, affordable places, to get the real experience of what to do and how to do animation. And I decided to open a school. So, and I am proud, three people from my school now work with Disney. Even not in 2D, in 3D.
Nice. So, what? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry,
No,
I'm talking too much, but
No.
just, you never know where your talents, what you learn in school will lead you. Teresa and I both attended the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. So we were trained to work from live, literally from walking models on the catway, in the fashion shows. And that was our nitty-gritty training. We were training to be editorial fashion illustrators. And lo and behold, he comes to this company who wants artists who can draw on the spot, moving people, who are good at quick gestures and know their anatomy. And here we are, 20 years later, I'm sitting here. So just draw from life as much as you can. There's no substitute. If you're sitting in a cafe, sketch the people. If they're just, you cannot beat it. Go to the zoo and draw from life. Yeah, there are tutorials online and all of that, but the first thing you need is a pencil and paper and your eyes. That's the most important thing. Use them.
All right, so what was it like to work at Disney Feature Animation in Florida?
It was great.
It was the best.
The best.
Do you have any good memories?
It wasn't work.
We had, it was family.
Yeah, it was.
It was still family.
We didn't mind doing all those hours working because we loved it. We finished scenes and we kept on going. And yeah, a lot of people didn't have families yet, but it wasn't a job where you had to go, oh, I have to work overtime. No, we loved it. It was the greatest job we ever had.
And we can't duplicate it anywhere else. Like wherever else we've landed, you can't. You just do not have that.
If you're doing art again, it's just there was a difference there. Like he said, it was a family, and we all took care of each other. We all helped each other out.
And I think it was because we all came from other places, and we had no other friends outside of work. So anytime, like Friday nights, we'd head over to Pleasure Island and go to the theater and watch a movie. We go out to dinners and parties on the weekend. Wednesdays volleyball. Yep, we were just one big happy family.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing also.
I was going to say the funny thing is you kind of forgot the level of talent that you were surrounded by on a daily basis. I mean, these were the top students from the top schools in the country and other animators who had relocated from the top of their game. And here we are, all thrown together, creating this amazing work, and you could pass by people's offices and see their personal work hanging on the walls or something they might be doing while they're waiting for their next scene, and you're just like, this guy is incredible. And we're all there working on the same product, not trying to be famous. I mean, with the exception of maybe Glenn Keane, there's very few names that stick out in Disney animation. We were truly a team, working together, supporting each other, trying to make each other better, and everyone was so great to begin with. And it was just this honing constantly. And you can really see it in the films. The more movies we made, the tighter our craft got. And you just sort of took it for granted that these people are super talented.
Yeah, we knew each other really well. As opposed to a lot of other studios, they would lay everybody off at the end of a film and then re-staff up and then off and then back up. So every film was a new group of people. Since we were in Florida, we didn't really have the endless pool that like California would have. So we stuck together. And we were the same group of people from film to film to film. We knew each other's strengths, we knew each other's weaknesses. And for that reason, for like decades or longer, we knew each other so well. And we were that group, close-knit group, and that really helped the productions. And that's why our films kind of stood up above and beyond a lot of other projects that were going around.
And then in the downtime, while we were waiting for movies to be done, we'd have caricature shows, art shows of our own stuff to see everybody's work laid out. It was so much fun and so inspiring.
One thing that I realized when I started out at Disney was, I was in love with drawing characters. And I wasn't really aware of the many different types of artists. There's so many different types of artists that bring something different to the table. There's visual development, there's story artists, there's background artists, there's effects artists. Everybody has a different talent that they shine at, and they all bring different things to the table. So my most favorite experience of all is seeing all this different type of art that is amazing go across my desk. I was like, I didn't do that background, but oh my gosh, look at that background going by. So there is just so many different types of artists. So let it shine.
I think when you're looking at the scenes too, you start, I know we do, you start thinking about how many people touch this one scene. And as Monica was saying, I mean, it's just it's seamless as well. You've got so many hands touching it, but shot to shot, everything works so well. I think you can tell when we're having fun on the projects too. It all seems to come across that we've had fun working on them.
The caricatures were brutal.
Oh. Yes, the
caricatures. You had to have a tough skin. We were constantly drawing each other. So.
And a sense of humor.
Yes.
So one last question here. I'm going to ask everyone's answer for this. Would you like to see Disney start making hand-drawn animation again?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for coming here today. Thank you guys for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day here at Epcot. Have a good day.
Thank you for joining us here at the Odyssey Festival Center. Please check your festival passport guide for everything you need to know about the many presentations being offered at the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. And please, enjoy the rest of your visit here at Epcot. Thank you.